when it says that. So welcome everybody to our Library and Education Commission. We have a pretty full house. Let's see, can we take a roll, please?
Sorry, I was muted.
I figured, Melissa.
Okay, hi everyone. I'm going to go ahead and start on roll. We'll start with Commissioner Zisser.
I'm here.
Oh, perfect. And we'll move on to Vice Chair Magana.
Present.
And Commissioner Rantakar. I don't see Commissioner Rantakar, so that's absent. And we'll move to Commissioner Thorson.
Present.
And Chair Mahaney Guru is present as well. And Commissioner Mendoza. Absent. Commissioner Kelly.
Happy St. Patrick's Day tomorrow, everybody.
And Commissioner Jolly.
I see her.
You see her on here?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. I'll have her as present. And Commissioner Ramos. Was that Commissioner Ramos I heard?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, perfect. Commissioner Allen
Here.
and Commissioner Malillo.
And also happy St. Joseph's Day.
So we have quorum with 9 commissioners present.
Great. If you can hear us, Commissioner Jolly, we see that you're calling in, and we marked you as present. Okay, moving on to the consent calendar. Can I have someone make the motion to accept the consent calendar?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you very much. Is there any discussion on it? All right, all those in favor say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Any abstentions? All right, moving on. Is there any public record today?
There are no matters of public record.
Thank you. Anybody who is here that would like to address the commission on subject matter that is not listed in the agenda, that now is your time. If you would like to do so, you have 2 minutes to speak, as you can see the timer. If you would like to, you would hit the raise hand function at the bottom of your screen. Is there anyone who'd like to give public comment? Perfect, moving on. All right, into the meat of the meeting, discussion and action items. First up is our Youth Commission announcements and updates. I'm looking around, there we are. Hi. I think you're on mute or your sound is not working because I don't see the mute button.
Okay, does this work?
Yeah, there you go.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Good evening, commissioners. So for the commission update, our commission finally officially transferred to a memorandum format in our most recent general meeting, and District 3's annual citywide survey merged with the library's mental health survey. Last year, they received around 1,000 responses. So this year, we are expecting around the same number. The survey includes demographics, approval ratings for policy proposals, a section to propose a policy idea to improve the community, and mental health and library usage. Currently, we are at 369 responses within the first day of its launching, meaning that 369 youth also saw the opportunity to apply for the Youth Commission. And that is all.
Oh, thank you, Commission Chair Hong. Any questions for our Youth Commission Chair? All right, thank you. We really are so happy to have you here. Yay. All right, moving on to the next item. We have a volunteer services update by, I'm looking for Mr. Pell. Oh, there you are, Jason. Thank you.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Perfect.
And let's see here. And I'm just going to be able to share my screen. I was thinking to myself that the last time I presented to y'all, I think I was in person, and I was like, oh man.
Yeah, I think that MLK.
Yeah, up in the Sjpl workspace. So, all right.
Jason, did you need to share your screen?
I think I do. Yeah.
Okay, let me give you some permission to share.
Thank you.
So I guess while that's coming up, I'll just note that for those of you who haven't had the pleasure of seeing our volunteer services manager, Jason Powell, present, Jason has been the volunteer service manager for how many years now?
Ooh, volunteer services manager, 4 years, I think. Yeah.
And then prior to that worked with the volunteer services unit and has really helped that unit become a model for the rest of the city. And so I will, now that you have your slides up, I'll stop stalling and introduce Jason to take us through the update.
Thank you so much, Jill. And thank you so much for preventing dead air. So hi, everybody. I'm Jason Pell. I manage volunteer services at the San Jose Public Library. Today, I'm going to be catching you all up on kind of what volunteer services has been doing since the COVID-19 pandemic, and then focusing specifically on the previous fiscal year. So let me find my button here. Perfect. Okay, I swear we won't spend too much time on this slide, but I just want to make sure that everyone in the meeting is aware of what we've been doing since the library's closed. So in March of 2020, library branches closed to the public in response to the COVID-19 pandemic. That following month, we began engaging virtual volunteers for the very first time. In July of 2021, we were then able to pilot in-person volunteering again at select branches at 4 of our locations. And then the next month, we expanded in-person volunteer engagement to all library locations, and that included COVID safety training and procedures. Also in August of 2021, the city's vaccine mandate was released, and that also applies to volunteers in addition to staff members. And by September, we had vaccine verified all of our current volunteers. And by November, we had trained branch staff on how to do those vaccine verifications for volunteers, for new incoming volunteers. And then again, in January of 2022, the booster mandate was released, which also applied to volunteers as well. And by the following month, we had all of our library volunteers booster verified. In that time that the library was closed, or rather in the time since library branches closed to the public due to the COVID-19 pandemic, we engaged 1,100 virtual volunteers who contributed over 31,000 virtual volunteer hours. Zeroing in just on the previous fiscal year. So last fiscal year, we had over 1,000 total volunteers who contributed over 25,000 hours. So about 3/4 of that was virtual hours, and about 1/4 of that time was in-person volunteer hours. We were just starting to re-engage with in-person volunteers last fiscal year. So that represents a 42% retention of the previous year's volunteer hours, and a 47% retention of the total number of volunteers. I do want to note that many libraries in the state of California during the COVID-19 pandemic had to completely pause their volunteer programs. So they had no volunteering going on at all. We'll return to that point later, but I just wanted to note that. Because of our efforts, we were able to retain 42% of our volunteer capacity. So let me talk a little bit more about virtual volunteerism and what I mean by that. So it's created some really interesting opportunities for our library system. So it allows people from all over the country to volunteer at Sjpl in different capacities. And it allows our virtual programs to serve people outside of our normal service areas. We don't advertise them outside of our normal service areas, but word gets out. So one example is that in our English as a second language conversation clubs, those transitioned to being virtual programs. And I got reports from volunteers that participants were having such a good time, such a positive experience, that they were letting their relatives know in their countries of origin that they should call in and join the club as well, which I thought was a really powerful testimonial of the quality of the program. And it allows us to engage people who might not otherwise be able to volunteer. For example, people that don't have the transportation needed to get to a library branch to volunteer can volunteer virtually. So I want to note that San Jose Public Library is a leader in terms of virtual volunteerism in the state. So as I mentioned previously, as of May of 2020, less than half of California library volunteer coordinators had any volunteering engagement. And Sjpl virtual volunteerism resources were featured on the California State Library's volunteerism resources page that's called Get Involved. And specifically, I shared with them our online virtual volunteer orientation that we had developed. And now I'll hand it over to Jean Hargis, who's going to talk a little bit about Friends of the Library. Jean, are you here?
Yeah, thank you, Jason.
And I can do the slides for you if you want.
Perfect.
Okay.
Great. Thanks, Jason. So like Jason said, I'm Jean Hargis. I'm a division manager with the library, and I oversee collections and North branches. And I'll just talk with you a little bit about Friends of the Library. Go ahead, Jason. So if you're not familiar, the Friends of the Library are independent, volunteer-led partner organizations. And each of the branches provides the Friends of the Library with a sorting area for donated items and also dedicated space in the libraries where library users can purchase those items. The branch staff accepts donated items and the Friends volunteers sort them and sell them. The branches with Friends groups are listed here. Currently, we have 20 branches with active Friends groups and active to varying degrees. And then we also have a few branches without Friends groups, but we're always building and trying to get those off the ground in other locations. Go ahead. And the Friends primary project usually is to raise funds for the library programs through book sales, as large book sales that are usually held in the community room or outdoors, and also their passive book nook sales in the dedicated area in the public area of the library. Some of the recent and upcoming Friends funded programs that the library system has right now are listed here. Happy Birds is always popular. There's always craft programs, and then other outside organizations that provide programs that the Friends fund. One of the interesting ones I saw on our website was a chicken care workshop. And then the Friends also provide funds for contributions for system-wide programming, such as our summer learning, Silicon Valley Reads. Recently, there was a Black History Month speakers panel that several Friends groups contributed toward. Go ahead. Similarly to how Jason trained and coordinated with volunteers during COVID pandemic closure, that's kind of how we worked with the Friends as well. Starting in September of last year, the branch managers worked with their Friends groups to provide virtual trainings that were based on the training that Jason developed for the volunteers, and those were on the COVID safety practices. Most of the Friends groups were not interested in meeting or working at all while we were closed, since there was really not much that they could do. So they waited until they were able to come back into the library. So the branch managers began with virtual meetings where they provided the training on our COVID safety practices. And then also we started doing their vaccine verification at that time. A few branches restarted book sales in the fall. I think there have been 3 throughout the system since October. So Alum Rock had one in October, Pearl Avenue had one in December, and then West Valley also had one in January. So some branches have also begun, sorry, Jason, if you could just go back. Some branches have also begun accepting donated items, and that is continuing to expand, just as the book sales are continuing to expand. Go ahead now, thanks. And then the San Jose Public Library also has a group called the All Friends, and that's where all of the friends of the library groups come together and they meet, and they work together to share best practices, share information, and also combine their resources to greater goods, such as working with the San Jose Public Library Foundation. They've recently been raising awareness of the library during the budget process, and then also doing other advocacy work out in the community. The All Friends group meets usually about quarterly. It's the 5th Saturday of the month, however that falls. So if we think about what's going on in the future with friends, near future, more branches are continuing, more branch friends groups are continuing to add book sales and also to accept donations, and they're continuing to support library programs. The other exciting thing that we're trying to get off the ground is that some of the existing friends groups that are very active will be partnering with the branches that don't have friends groups to be able to bring those resources to those communities as well. And I think it's back to you, Jason. Thank you.
Thanks, Jean. Okay, so now I want to talk a little bit about our last volunteer feedback survey. I do a volunteer feedback survey every year. This last one was pretty exciting because for the first time I added some demographic questions, which was exciting to me because for the first time I'll be able to report on actual data relating to our volunteer demographics. So but we'll get to that. So just a little bit of background on the survey and my data collection method. So it was an online survey distributed via email to all of our accepted volunteers. In previous years, I've limited it to just volunteers that are actively logging hours, but because so many of our volunteers had to put their service on pause due to the COVID-19 pandemic. This time around, I just sent it out to all accepted volunteers. It was active for about 2 weeks in the second half of December. And we received 226 total responses, which I was pretty happy about, considering we had about 500 active volunteers at that time. So the survey consisted of different types of questions. So 5 questions specifically on the experience of our volunteers, 8 questions trying to get at their satisfaction level, and 2 free answer questions, and then our 3 new demographic questions, which we'll get to in a moment. But one of the main takeaways that I want to share is that volunteers overall are having a really positive experience at the library. They're continuing to. So 92% would recommend Sjpl as a place to volunteer, 90% feel comfortable approaching a staff member when they have a question, and 89% felt prepared for their volunteer role. Up here on this slide is just a quote from a virtual volunteer actually stating that they love volunteering at the library. They like seeing the difference that they can make in the community, and they like the variety of volunteer opportunities and programs that we're able to offer. So it did provide me the opportunity to compare kind of the experience of virtual volunteers and in-person volunteers for the first time. I was so excited to see like, oh my gosh, are there wild differences? And there weren't wild differences. For the most part, virtual and in-person volunteers had similar satisfaction with their volunteer roles. The one exception that I saw any significant difference was we asked them if they feel comfortable approaching a staff member when they have a question. And 94% of on-site volunteers said that they felt comfortable, and compared to 88% of virtual volunteers. I want to note that that's still really positive. 88% of virtual volunteers feeling comfortable approaching a staff member with a question is a good result. But it shows that there's kind of a difference in the experience of virtual and in-person volunteers. It makes sense to me, considering that in person, a volunteer is going into the library branch. They might be checking in at the front desk. They might be saying, hey, I'm here for my shift. Can you unlock the community room for me? And they have that kind of unstructured time to ask a question. So it's something that we're incorporating into our training as we work with staff who are supporting virtual volunteers. So, okay, so this is the really exciting part. We've never been able to report directly on volunteer demographics. One of the demographic questions we asked was race and ethnicity identity. And as you can see, 53% of our volunteers reported that they identify as Asian, while 38% reported that they identify as white and Caucasian. I also want to note that 3.2% of our volunteers responded with other, and there's a place for them to write in a response. Some of those responses were things like Filipino, Southeast Asian, Pakistani. And that kind of indicates to me that when I do this survey next year, perhaps that Asian category is a little too broad and we can add some specificity there. I also asked about gender identity. 70% of our volunteers who responded identify as women, compared to 25% who identify as men. 2.17% identify as gender nonconforming, 2.5% preferred not to disclose, and 1.4% said other. I also want to say that there is a space for them to write in their responses as well. So some of the other responses that we received were things like genderqueer. One person said not sure, woman identified, but also sometimes non-binary. Another person just wrote in the letter X into that field. And then we also asked for their approximate age range as they're responding. So if we add up the 15 to 17-year-olds and the under 15-year-olds, we see that the majority of the volunteers that responded are teens. And then our next biggest age group is actually 50 or above. So that means that the 18 and 29-year-olds and the 30 to 49-year-olds are the smallest groups. So what does that data tell us? So one thing that it tells us is that Sjpl volunteers are diverse in race and ethnicity, gender identity, and age. And I did use this data and compare it to City of San Jose census data from 2012. And it allowed me to identify demographic groups that are underrepresented in our volunteer corps compared to the general population of the City of San Jose. For example, Latinx and Hispanic folks are underrepresented, men are underrepresented, and adults ages 18 to 49 are underrepresented. I want to make it clear that we know that barriers to volunteering exist. For example, access to transportation for in-person volunteering, or a stable internet connection for virtual volunteering, access to childcare, access to just free time to be able to volunteer. And this data suggests to me that those barriers disproportionately affect some demographic groups more than others. I also want to make sure to note that volunteers, including those that are in these underrepresented groups, continue to report having an overwhelmingly positive experience at Sjpl as a volunteer. So the folks that are in underrepresented groups who volunteer with us are having a good time. So why is this important? So it's important because for the first time we can report on volunteer demographics using data. There are things that I've observed in my years as the manager of the volunteer services unit, but now I actually have some data to back it up. And it also raises really interesting questions that will help guide me and the conversations that I have in my unit in the coming years. So for example, how can we reduce those barriers to volunteering for groups that are underrepresented as library volunteers? And what does our organization lose by not engaging those groups more effectively? I also think that it highlights the potential of our volunteer program to address issues of equity and inclusion. For example, one of the questions on the survey that I asked is whether volunteers are interested in becoming a library staff member or learning more about employment opportunities at the library. For folks who identify with a racial or with a race or ethnicity that's underrepresented in our volunteer program, those folks are actually more likely to say that they are interested in becoming a library staff member than the average volunteer. So those folks are really seeing the library and their volunteer role as a possible career path for the future, which I found really interesting. So finally, what are the next steps for volunteer services? So I want to expand in-person volunteering away fines events to all library locations. That was a really popular program prior to the pandemic. This will include a return of our really popular system-wide service day sometime in the spring or summer of 2022. We will continue to re-engage in-person volunteers, both leading library programs as well as supporting library operations at all of our locations. I'm really interested in comparing our volunteer demographic data to demographic data on our program participants. That's something that our diversity, equity, and inclusion and data team are working on collecting right now. And then I'm also interested in developing a volunteer recruitment and retention strategy to close those equity gaps that we see in our volunteer program. Any questions?
Thank you so much. Oh my gosh, I can't even, there's so much there. I can't even. Let's see, I'm looking around the room. Commissioner Kelly.
Yes, thank you very much. Wow, what a report. Jason, it's really good to see you face to face. I know we've spoken several times, and it's always good to put a face with a name or
Absolutely.
whatever that phraseology is. I'm very impressed with what you found out, and that's going to help. There's a cat just walked in front of Hillary. I guess that speaks about my comments. Anyway, I have a couple of questions that I would like to ask you. And any of the other administrative people that can answer the questions, because you may not be able to do that. I've been involved with 2 friends groups for 20 years now, probably the longest run of volunteerism in the friends groups, with West Valley for 10 years and now almost with 10 years at the Bascom Library, which held its first book sale in 2 years this past Saturday. So you can add that as number 4 in there, Gene. And we held it outside, so everybody felt safe and comfortable. And I'm in process of developing a recruitment brochure, which Jason, I think I'd like to share with you, since that's one of your goals. But
absolutely.
Yeah, let me ask you this, and you may not be able to answer it. Some of the other people may be able to. I've worked on many volunteer programs over my life. I'm one of those 50 plus people, 50 plus 50 almost. Have you equated the amount of dollars saved or not spent by having all of these volunteer hours that we always equate with the Department of, with the government, Department of Economics, how much money that saves a group or how much money that would cost if you had to hire those people to do it? That's number one question.
Yeah, so My answer is yes. I don't have that number offhand, but essentially what I do is there's an organization that calculates the value of a volunteer hour for each state. I have the total volunteer hours, so it's just a simple matter of making that calculation. I also want to make it clear that the stated goal of our volunteer program is to support and expand the services that the library is able to offer by leveraging the skills and experience of our community. So it's we're bringing on volunteers so that we can provide services beyond what we would otherwise be able to provide. But yeah, I can definitely follow up with you later with kind of like that dollar amount. It is something that I do calculate every year. So
yeah, that would be interesting, I think, for everybody to know that. The other question is probably a general question, and that is in my reaching out as a commissioner and as a long-term friend, is there any possibility at any time that the sale spaces and the workroom spaces can be increased for the friends groups? The ones that I'm associated with, you're really cramped into a tight little corner trying to get a lot of work done. I'm in process of reinvigorating, as of this Friday, the Cambrian Library. They've not had their friends group start up again. Their sales space is about 6 feet tall and about 4 feet wide. Really can't do much with that. So the question is, in the future, is there any possibility, Jill, of that being increased in new construction or existing building?
Yeah, I think we had a bond discussion recently, but one of the things that we've been looking at is a facilities assessment of all the necessary improvements to our assets or the life cycle of many of our buildings that were either improved during the 2000 bond now or weren't. And so we could definitely include, I don't know if you recall, Jenny, if that came up on the list previously, but we are definitely keeping a tally of all of the areas that need to be improved in branches. If we were to do a new building program, is the kind of thing that could come up through the community discussions and the stakeholder discussions. So there currently isn't a plan to do construction in the branches, as I think you know, but as I said, we could, as we're talking about the future, that's certainly something that could be embedded in it.
Yeah, everybody would really appreciate that, because it's tough if you have more than one person working in the workroom. It's a crowd. You stumble over each other and you can't just really move it. So that's one of the things I really see. And then Jean, maybe you can answer this one. No, I've already asked that. Also, the question came up about the All Friends program. I've tried for a year to become a member of the All Friends program, and I can't get any responses from anybody. I go online for the sign up thing and it never works. Is that dead or what's going on with the All Friends group?
I can send your email address to the person who coordinates the group.
Yeah, could you do that? I really would appreciate it, because again, it's a year that I've been trying to get involved in that. And final question is, how are you going to locate the people that are going to help other branches that don't have friends groups form them? Because that's of great interest to me as well. And also to the people at the Bascom Library, I know.
So the branch managers of locations that don't have friends groups have already started talking to some of the other managers about coordinating with their friends groups. So, like for example, the Berryessa Friends are currently helping out getting a group going, restarted at El Viso. And so it's usually kind of based on the manager being connected to another friends group or knowing of a nearby friends group that would be available. So we'll keep Bascom in mind for sure.
Yeah, if you wouldn't mind, we're celebrating the 10th anniversary of Bascom next year. We'll have a big blowout celebration for that. And all of the volunteers in the Friends group that opened the Bascom Library are still there working in the Friends program. So we've got a lot of experience to be able to share with other groups. Thank you very much for everybody's time and the answers. And Jason, wonderful to see you for the first time.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Zisser.
Yeah, hi. Thanks for the presentation. And all of my questions and comments have to do with the demographic information. But before I get to that, I do just want to flag what Ken just said about trying to sign up. I think we should probably take that as more than just a request for him to be connected, and maybe as a red flag for other people potentially having difficulties signing up. So I would just maybe suggest we use that as a data point for looking into that. I hope, yeah. So anyway, I think Ken was suggesting that anyway.
Sorry, Commissioner Zisser, the listserv was changed within the last year. So perhaps we need to, yeah, thank you for that. We need to take a look at what's on the website. Thank you.
So just a couple comments and a couple questions. I think collecting the demographic information is fantastic. Obviously, it goes hand in hand with all the great stuff we've heard from the library about all the efforts and their leadership on that, which I'm just, I just can't say enough about. So one comment is, I mean, Latinos weren't underrepresented. They were drastically underrepresented. Let's just be clear. 6% compared to whatever it is, 40% in the city is drastic. So I think we need to really pay attention to that. Blacks in San Jose are a tiny population, about 2%, my understanding. And only 1% of the respondents indicated identifying as Black. So that is also a drastic underrepresentation. Just because they're small numbers doesn't mean they can't be drastically underrepresented. I understand it may be too small a data set to take any information from at that level, because we're talking about, it sounds like a handful of respondents identifying as Black, but also just something to notice. This is a comment and a question. I guess I'm a little bit surprised that you asked about a lot of important demographic information, but not disability. This kind of volunteerism is a really great opportunity for integration into the community for people with disabilities, including people with significant disabilities, including people with intellectual disabilities. I know we have a lot of programs for people in that population in particular, and that's great. And I assume we also have volunteers in those populations. Is there some reason we didn't capture that information this time?
Oh, it's a really good question. I don't have a great answer, but I think that my answer really is that this is the first time that I was moving forward with asking demographic questions in this way. So I was being really selective about the questions that I was asking, knowing that in future feedback surveys that I would ask additional questions. So this is really just me kind of dipping my toe into the water, but I can confirm that we have, so there are often what I call service groups. So these are folks with cognitive disabilities who often are volunteering alongside a coach or mentor. And that's a really common way that people volunteer at the library. But you're absolutely right. I would be really interested to get some hard data on kind of the percentage of our volunteers that have a disability. I also do want to make it a point to mention that those numbers really only represent the folks that are responding to our volunteer feedback survey. So I can only report on the people that we gather the data for. But yeah, that's a really excellent point, and also something that I really interested in learning more about. So thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And I mean, I think, with the fact that the majority of the volunteers fall into the 50 and over group, I think there's probably some physical disability in that group. And it would be interesting to see whether we have opportunities for people with physical disabilities to volunteer as well, and whether transport is an issue there and things like that. So anyway, important information to capture in the
Commissioner,
future.
I'll just add one thing. Through the work that the Disability Access Committee is doing, we are planning on doing a separate survey so that obviously we could look to incorporate a question about volunteers and make sure that that goes out to our active volunteers as well. So thank you for that feedback.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. It's fun. It's really fun to learn about just the numbers of volunteers. It's an impressive number, and obviously a robust program. So want to make sure everybody gets a chance to participate. The last comment I have before some other questions. I don't want to belabor this, but it really is best practice. I've served on another commission before. It was an even way less resourced commission than this commission, but way less resourced. It really is not helpful to get these PowerPoints in real time and not ahead of time. And there actually is an equity component to this. Some people simply cannot read that material quickly enough as you're presenting it. Some people can't read the material at all. So it's not you, Jason. This has come up in other meetings. I don't even know how it's Brown Act compliant not to receive the information. I could be wrong about that. I know there's no
Yes, you are wrong, Commissioner Zisser. That's not Brown Act required. And so I also want to remind you just to stop for a second. It's not your job to give staff direction. It's our job to inform. You did give direction. You asked them and told them to put the website up and fix that problem. That's not our job. Our job is to give feedback and to work with Jill on the direction of her staff. So I want to remind you of that as you give comment.
Yeah, nothing I'm saying should be interpreted as giving direction. I know I can't.
Well, I did. I definitely interpreted it that way, and I'm the chair, so I'm sure they did too.
I've served on commissions. I staff a commission currently in another jurisdiction, so I know I can't give direction. But it is a comment about how unhelpful it is to not get the information ahead of time. And I don't know who that comment is for, but it's best practice in commissions, is my understanding. And there were a couple slides where I just couldn't keep up, to be honest.
I think Commissioner Angelica is pointing out that they were in the pack, even though they didn't have to, and just gave you the link for it, Commissioner Zisser.
I do want to clarify as the commission secretary that this was linked in the packet, and I apologize if you didn't see that. It was provided ahead of time.
It's not on the website.
We get the emails. And so I'm going to stop us right now because I'm feeling that the issues you're talking about, I'd like to take offline with Jill. I think that this is not best use of time.
I'll move on. Well, this is the time for comments from other commissioners.
Yes, I understand that completely, as I'm on commissions as well and boards. So I'm fully aware.
Yeah. I hope the staff take it as a compliment. There's a lot of information I think would be helpful for the public and us to have ahead of time. Would it be possible, I don't want to give direction here, is there a link that I'm not aware of that would provide the list of the survey questions that were sent out?
Yeah, I'd be perfectly happy to what I can do is I can follow up with a PDF of the survey itself, just so y'all can see all the questions. And then the other thing that I can do is I have a whole nother PowerPoint that goes into way more detail on the volunteer feedback survey results. So I can provide a summary of the results if you're interested in that. Absolutely.
I certainly am. I don't want to put work on your plate. That's not my job. But if there's if it's publicly available, or if it's easy to send, that would certainly be helpful. And then the last thing is, and maybe you just answered this question, but I'd be interested, and maybe this is in that more detailed packet.
I'm sorry, Commissioner, we cannot hear you, so we're going to need to circle back, I think.
Yeah, we're having a difficult time. You're going in and out. Commissioner Allen, I know you've been waiting, and then Commissioner Mendoza. And then we're going to wrap this item up and move back to B. Sorry, staff, I jumped ahead. No deference to Mr. Pell, although I adore the work you've done. Commissioner Allen, and then Commissioner Mendoza.
Chair Wendy, I think Commissioner Mendoza was actually up before.
Thank you for that. Patricia, Commissioner Mendoza, your hand is up and we would love to hear from you.
Thank you so much. You're so sweet. As always, brilliant presentation. I love to hear all the great things. The library is always ahead nationwide. It's just amazing all the work that you do. And just quickly, I was just wondering about the volunteer away your fines. I remember that program. I've used it in the past myself, guilty of that. And before the pandemic, right? But if I remember correctly, during the pandemic, there weren't any fees. So if you were late, you would turn in the item and it would slate back, right? It would go clean to zero. Does that mean, are there fees being collected now, or is that just revamping the program, getting everything ready for the future?
Ooh, I'm going to toss it over to a librarian on the call who will.
I apologize, just
okay.
for you.
So I think the question is, what is that? What fines would people be working off? Is that?
So before the pandemic, if you had late fees, right, instead of paying them, you could go volunteer and wipe those out. During the pandemic, my understanding was that if you collected late fees, as long as you turned in the item, you would be clear. It would go to zero. So now with having the program back, which I think is awesome, but I'm just wondering, are fees being collected now?
Sure, I can understand. I can understand the confusion. We haven't started collecting fines. We do still, however, assess a fee if someone loses an item. So it could be that those are the charges that people are working off. And in addition, any balance that somebody had before the pandemic could still be on their account. So they might be working off those amounts that were remaining.
Perfect, that makes sense. Okay. Thank you so much.
And I also just want to add that even when our locations were closed to the public, our community conversation virtual programs were incorporated into the Volunteering Away Fines program. So I know that at least a few people participated in volunteering away your fines virtually through the community conversations.
Okay, let's see. Commissioner Allen.
I'd also like to give my kudos to Jason and Jean and the rest of the amazing San Jose Public Library staff. I am probably the lowest tech person on this commission, but I have really appreciated the links in the agenda that even I can click on and be able to read ahead of time the information that's going to be presented at our commission meeting. So I do want to thank you for that, because it does help to be able to read that ahead of time. And that's always been there for us. So I do want to thank you for that as one of the low-tech people on the commission.
Thank you, Commissioner Allen. Doesn't matter. All experience is welcome. Of course, and your long-term experience especially. We've appreciated your guidance. All right, we are going to move on. I'm so sorry again, staff, that I skipped B, and whoever moved the slides deck around so fast. Thank you. Nice job. We're going to talk about the adult literacy program with Adrian and Carla. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. I'm going to start the conversation, then I'll hand it over to Carla. So thank you, commissioners. My name is Adrian McBride, and I'll be presenting with my colleague, Carla Alvarez, on adult services programming at the San Jose Public Library. Before we begin, I would like to introduce you to Partners in Reading's great staff, some of whom were able to join us this evening. So we have Ellen Lobel, Cassandra Lindincho, Catherine McBain, and Katie Linder, who are literacy program specialists with the San Jose Public Library. Paul Liu, a principal office specialist, Susan Robledo and Julie Cullen, office specialists, and Nak Lien, clerk. Next slide, please. Partners in Reading, which we shorten to PAR, provides literacy programs to adult learners. Individuals in our program are assessed to having literacy skills at or below the 9th grade level. In fiscal year 2020 through 2021, PAR worked to find multiple avenues for our learners during COVID-19. Our primary program is a one-on-one tutoring program where learners and tutors work together for 90 minutes at least twice a week. We were able to supplement this one-on-one tutoring with small group classes, which were held on Zoom. To better facilitate these Zoom classes, as well as the virtual tutoring, we provided numerous opportunities for learners and tutors to become comfortable using Zoom or any other virtual system that they wanted to use. We also hosted contractor-led ESL classes at partner sites, led an online writing workshop for tutors and learners, and published an anthology of 2 years worth of learner writings in an anthology you should have received in September of 2021. Overall, our volunteers served 9,006 hours and provided over 3,500 one-on-one instructional hours for the fiscal year. Next slide, please. PAR serves a high needs demographic, and we had to modify our programming extensively in the wake of COVID-19. We connected learners to Chromebooks through SJ Access and refurbished devices, led digital literacy classes, as well as referred learners to digital literacy classes at FLCs, which Carla will discuss a little bit later. Transitioned to mailing materials to tutors and learners. Typically, we would just move them from library to library for the tutors to pick up. Our ESL contractor switched to virtual instruction. And then we also have high school, which switched over to virtual interviews, virtual orientations, as well as virtual graduations. Next slide, please. For our programs, here's the significant data. So Career Online High School, or CAUS, awarded 30 scholarships, as well as 25 students graduated with their high school diploma during the fiscal year. As a note, the scholarships the students get are for 18 months, so there is usually overlap between fiscal years. We taught 12 ESL learners and continued one-on-one tutoring for 78 learners with our 51 tutors. Finally, we distributed 220 books to 26 families as part of our Together We Read program. Families in this program receive 2 free books per child every other month. That's a quick summary of the work that PAR has done over the last fiscal year. And now I will pass it on to Carla to give you an overview of the work that Family Learning Centers have done.
Good evening, commissioners. My name is Carla Alvarez, and I'm happy to prepare a summary of the work of the Family Learning Centers, or FLCs. If I could change to the next slide, thank you. FLCs provide a range of programs and services to improve the quality of life for historically underserved and underrepresented communities. As of June 2021, there are now 9 FLCs located in Central and East San Jose in areas facing higher socioeconomic disparities. These branches are Bascom, Biblioteca Latinoamericana, Alum Rock, East San Jose, Carnegie, Hillview, Seven Trees, Tully, and the incorporation of Educational Park in Edenville as the 2 new branch locations this past year. Each of these FLCs are staffed by a full-time coordinator who is there to provide individual support and spend time conducting outreach in the community and developing particular programs in response to the local community needs that are being identified. Next slide. This fiscal year, the FLCs served 12,497 patrons. The FLCs are designed to support community members in a variety of ways, including immigration status changes and establishing partnerships with nonprofits specializing in immigration and legal services, English language learning clubs and classes, computer instruction, workshops for parenting and other support groups, guest presentations and referrals regarding applications to unemployment, housing, food application assistance, and programs in Spanish and Vietnamese directly, as well as dedicated areas within most of these branches with specialized collections, technologies, and classroom. Next slide. Some of the highlights from this past year include Resilient Families, a program that's led in partnership with Sacred Heart Community Services for families with expecting a child through 3 years of age. There were several immigration study programs, workshops, mock interviews, and information workshops about immigration status changes procedures. And we worked closely with PARS Equality, International Rescue Committee, and the United States Citizenship and Immigration Services. There were also a host of conversation and grammar practice clubs, as well as classes that are taught in partnership with Eastside Union High School District and Campbell Adult and Community Education. FLC coordinators are key partners also to bridge libraries at the family resource centers, leading story times, updating collections, and supporting with special events. During the pandemic, Family Learning Center coordinators created a new program series called Community Connection Hour, a weekly education and information sharing program to highlight key public services, resources, and feature guest speakers throughout the year. Next slide. Both PAR and the FLC serve communities who self-report as having low digital literacy skills and access. PAR and FLCs have provided individuals with technical support in overcoming the barriers within the digital divide, including walking people through tech troubleshooting over the phone, Zoom, and WhatsApp, as these were the most commonly used platforms cited by community members. Through our programs and services, community members also connected to our digital devices available through the SJ Assets Initiative, including hotspots, Chromebooks, and laptops. As we continue to work on pandemic recovery efforts, digital inclusion will continue to play a key role in both PAR and FLC programming. And at the request of community members, program will be offered in a combination of in-person and virtual programming to accommodate participation needs and availability. Next slide. And as we can start to prepare for the fiscal year ahead, hard as it is to believe already, we're there. PAR is going to continue recruiting, training, and matching volunteers, building out a schedule for virtual small classes, as well as individual one-on-one tutoring for ESL programming, and looking to increase our scholarships for Career Online High School with a goal of reaching 50 scholarships in the coming year. And as far as the FLCs, we are now looking into renewing CBO partnerships for joint programming, especially now that we are able to move forward with indoor programming, and really starting to identify what are the upcoming community events, so to make sure that we are represented and participating in those key spaces. The FLCs also recently launched a Facebook chat group, the first chat group that's hosted through our Facebook page for the library, to connect and engage with staff, community members, and learn about resources on an ongoing basis, and as well continuing with the programming, both virtual and in person. Next slide. So this is a very a brief summary, but I'm also happy to introduce you to 3 of our Family Learning Center coordinators that are here today. We are joined by Ofelia Medina, who is an FLC coordinator at Hillview Branch, Victoria Coverson Baxter, who is an FLC coordinator at the Alum Rock Branch, and Ulysses Palmeno, who is an FLC coordinator at Educational Park Branch. I'm going to invite all of them to just make sure their videos are on and you can see them in the thumbnails and probably waving and saying hello. And now we are open for questions.
Thank you. And thank you for joining us and all the great work you do. It's amazing. I couldn't take notes fast enough. It was so lovely. Both sides of the house. All right. Are there commissioners that have questions or comments or appreciations? I will say it for all of us. Thank you. Really, thank you. It's so wonderful. And we appreciate you coming tonight and all your folks coming with you, and keep up the great work on behalf of the Library Commission. Thank you. All right, we will keep moving then. We are on to item informational all tonight, D, Women's History Month Program Spotlight with Kyle Burkett and Ofelia Medina, I believe, I hope. And Samantha Cramer, sorry, almost missed it. Thank you, Samantha.
Yeah, thank you very much, and good evening, commissioners. I just want to say thank you for having us all. My name is Kyle Burkett, and I am the senior librarian in charge of King Public Reference and Resources, and also Sjpl Works, which is our Business and Workforce Development Center, located on the 3rd floor of the King Library downtown. And I was asked to join you all tonight in order to highlight some Sjpl programs that support and celebrate women in honor of Women's History Month, which is, of course, this month. So we're going to hear briefly from a few different staff members who are leading these types of programs, Samantha and Ophelia, and they're hear about their work in various locations throughout the library system. And so we'll start with an overview of Sjpl Works' Women Returners Work Group. If we can advance the slide. So the Women Returners series is a series of programs that are designed to help support women who have a prolonged absence from the workplace due to a variety of different reasons, which can include, but are definitely not limited to, choosing to raise children and to help them re-enter the workforce. It is a partnership with CREA Incorporated, and so they have a subdivision of their professional development organization that is called Women Back to Work. And so basically they help women returners build confidence and strengthen their skills for meaningful employment. The work groups meet annually for 7 sessions. It's the first Wednesdays of the month, and typically it's January through July. Beyond the programming topics, these groups, they help foster relationships between women who are experiencing similar challenges re-entering the workplace. And so we've seen some very nice friendships come out of these work groups. Topics that are covered include setting goals for your job search, enhancing your strengths, your personality type and skill building, value and interest, creating an elevator pitch, network, and resume writing. These work groups have also allowed us to make customer referrals to other skill building programs that the library offers, which include our digital literacy classes, and then also make referrals to partner organizations that we work with, such as Work to Future, or connect them to other online resources that we have, such as like LinkedIn Learning, for example. Next slide, please. So this program has been virtual since its inception in 2020. Of course, we were ready to have in-person sessions and then pandemic. So as of the very beginning of the program, we have had a total attendance for these workshops of 115 people. That was 51 participants for 6 sessions in the first year, 2020, 44 participants over 7 sessions in 2021, and then 20 participants so far this year. Let's see, we've had some nice customer feedback, as you can see here. Teachers are great, insightful, and helpful. Thank you very much. Thank you. Programs like this help us get better and become more confident. It's worth noting that the individual sessions, the topics that we teach on and present on, are developed by both our business librarians and by the specialists that work for Women Back to Work. And so we have some future targets, which is to expand this partnership with the Alameda Free Library. We actually have a collaboration with one of our prior Sjpl Works librarians that now works there, to sort of bring these programs to a bigger footprint throughout the Bay Area. And then we're also hoping to add topics covered in the Women Returners series based on feedback that we've gotten from our participants. And we hope to add additional sessions as we go along and grow this program. So overall, I think so far we've had a good amount of success. And, we're hoping that a return to in-person programming can help grow this program to a degree as well. And I think next up, we're going to hear from Ophelia. If you go ahead and advance the slide. Yeah, Ophelia, take it away.
Thank you, Kyle. Good evening, commissioners. My name is Ophelia Medina, and I'm the Family Learning Center Coordinator for the Hillview Branch Library on the east side of San Jose. And I'm here today to talk about a special program that we offer via Hillview. It's called the Tiempo Parami program. And the Tiempo Parami program is a women's support group conducted in Spanish. And the program offers participants a safe, healthy, and positive space to develop a network of support and fosters friendships as well. And participants learn to navigate the Sjpl website, obtain information and updates about the programs, services, events, and resources offered at Sjpl. The FLC coordinator leads and engages the group in conversations and presentations with experts and community leaders on topics that participants request are coordinated to provide important information, linkage, and warm handoffs to additional community resources as well. For this program, we also have conversations with participants led by the FLC coordinator to discuss library programs and services, to obtain feedback and make changes and improvements as needed. Information gathered is shared with branch manager and staff to further inform planning and program development at the library. Recent presentations include a COVID-19 information session with County Public Health, programs at Sacred Heart Community Services overview, nutrition and wellness classes with the Second Harvest of Silicon Valley, cancer prevention for women via the Community Health Partnership, how to advocate and get support for your student and navigate the educational system during the pandemic, led by the president of the Santa Clara Board of Education, and much more. All the topics presented during Tiempo Parami are based on the needs and the requests of the participants in the group, and information gathered regarding what could benefit or assist our community members in the neighborhood. The picture also on the slide that we had is also a picture of a program that I don't think I see it on the slide here. Oh, it might have been left out. We had a picture also in the slide before of one of the program participants celebrating a birthday, because when we had this program in person, we celebrated participants' birthdays because sometimes they come to this country with no families, and they don't really celebrate their birthday here. So that was one of the things they wanted to do. So we actually did that with them at the library, and we also included the children as well because they would come with their children to participate in the program. But it's made a really big impact, and during the COVID shutdown, we continued this, and we have been able to have more community members attend, and we have community members now from different cities also joining this program as well. So it's been amazing. Tonight, I also have a participant of the program that would like to share a few words. So Araceli Ortiz Medina, if you would like to say a few words about Tiempo Parami. Araceli, si gusta decir un poquito acerca del programa de Tiempo Parami.
Ok. Buenas tardes. Mi nombre es Araceli Ortiz. Tiempo para mí fue maravilloso porque fue antes de la pandemia. Yo era una mamá completamente involucrada en la educación de mis hijas. Cuando pasó COVID, no hubo más tiempo para escuela ni nada. Todo se acabó. Tiempo para mí fue algo como llenó ese vacío, llenó mis tiempos y me sentí como en familia. Señor Ofelia es una persona muy amigable, tiene algo que te cautiva y nos hace sentir como en casa.
So Araceli shared that during the pandemic, everything stopped. Being involved in the school like she was so heavily stopped as well, and that having the space in Tiempo para mí was able to help her feel supported. She also feels supported by the library staff member that facilitates the group as well, and it's been beneficial to her and her family. Gracias, Araceli.
Yeah, algo más que quería decir solamente, yo pensaba que la librería solamente era para agarrar libros para mis hijas. Yo no sabía que tenía tantos recursos, aprendí tanto en estos 2 años de COVID que la library tiene demasiados recursos para nosotros como padres, y aprendí tanto de que hay muchas agencias que la librería puede traer para nosotros los papás. Gracias por todo lo que han hecho por nosotros, de incluirnos en todo lo que la librería ofrece para nosotros como padres gratuitamente sin saber. He aprendido demasiado. Gracias.
Gracias, señora Araceli. So Araceli shared that during the Tiempo para mí program, before that, she thought that the library was just to go get books. She didn't realize everything we had available. And through the Tiempo para mí program, she was able to learn about our programs, our services, and everything that's free that we have to offer to the community. So she's very appreciative of this program and to be connected more closely now to Sjpl. Gracias, señora Araceli. Thank you. We can go to the next slide now. On this next slide, we're highlighting now that we have the 2022 speaker series. So the Family Learning Center coordinators work together to coordinate special speaker events with members in the community. Oftentimes we invite leaders in the community to come and share a little bit about their experience. And this month we're celebrating women everywhere. So on March 10th, we had Dr. Susie Reyes discuss her work during the pandemic and working in the ER and how she's serving the community. On March 24th, we will have Elaine Walker also discussing healing, promoting hope through 30 years of creating a thriving community for future generations. And on March 29th, we're going to have the grand finale with Blanca Alvarado and other panelists. We're going to have other community leaders also join us. And the topic of that conversation will be women providing healing, promoting hope via civic engagement to foster a thriving community for generations. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh my gosh, I got the chills. Oh my gosh. I hope we all go to these. These are the 29th, I can't even. I want to say thank you again. And thank you, Arceli. Gracias so much for coming and sharing. We really appreciate it. It's just, I'm speechless about how deeply we connect in our communities. So thank you all for your presentation. Now, commissioners, any comments, questions, appreciations?
Oh, I hate to interrupt. I think we have 2 more slides left.
I'm so sorry. Thank you. Oh, good job, Samantha. Thanks.
No, not a problem. I'm glad everyone is so excited. Well, I will do my slides briefly. I'm here to talk. Hello, everybody. Good evening, commissioners. I know I've met most of you before, but for those of you who have not met me, I am Samantha Cramer. I'm our Education and Programming Services Manager. I oversee a team of amazing librarians that do a lot of our system-wide educational and STEM programs. And one of our main programs, as I'm sure you are aware, is our Coding 5K Challenge, which seeks to increase opportunities for students to engage with coding and robotics experiences. And we've always approached our coding work with a focus on providing experiences to students that are often left out of computer science learning. And one of the key demographics that we've been trying for several years now to really engage further with the program have been students who identify as girls and young women. So we have designed programs that specifically encourage young women to explore computer science, robotics, to really address the gender gap that we see across all technology-based career paths. We've done this through a number of pathways, one of which is to ensure that we have programs that are specifically designated as girls only, such as summer camps and ongoing classes, like our Girls Who Code program, as well as some of our app development and Intro to Python, Intro to Java programs. We had a lot of feedback when we initially tried this out as a pilot, that a lot of girls who, maybe hadn't really dipped their toes much into computer science felt more comfortable doing so in an environment that was filled with their peers. And so we really tried to carve out as much space as possible for those programs. And we've seen some great strides there. For the very first time since we launched the Coding 5K initiative in 2018, fiscal year 2020-2021 saw that the majority of all Coding 5K participants did identify as girls, a total of 54% of all participants across the entire program, which is a huge jump from when we launched it. Next slide. So looking at Women's History Month, which of course is happening currently. So we are offering a couple of different coding experiences designed specifically for young women. We have our ongoing Girls Who Code Club happening, where girls get together with volunteers who are also women who are either working in technology fields or are perhaps college students aspiring to work in technology fields. And they get together to build coding skills, build community, really explore a lot of different aspects of coding. The clubs run over multiple weeks. And so the girls really get to work with each other on a large amount of very interesting projects. That's for grades 6 to 12. So you can see there's a wide range of ages that can get involved there. And this month, we're also having a related program, a Girls Who Hack program, which is a more short-term sort of offshoot of Girls Who Code, where they will be using the MIT App Inventor to brainstorm together, to come up with ideas, and then actually code and create their own apps. And that's for ages 12 to 14. And so we are very excited to continue to work with all of our students, but especially our girls, who we would really love to see get into the fields that have made Silicon Valley what it is today. Next slide. And with that, we are finished and we're open to questions.
Okay, now, Wendy, you can ask for commission comments, appreciation, and questions. Commissioner Allen.
Thank you very much for that amazingly detailed and informative report. I have a question for Ophelia about Tiempo Parami. You said that the participants are able to request topics for speakers or presentations during their classes. And can you give me an example of a topic that has been requested?
So some of the meetings that I hold with the group is basically open forum, and we talk about, I give announcements about the library, and then I ask the group, like, what kind of things do you want to learn? We're here to help your learning and help you so that you can also support your family's learning, your kids and anyone else. So a lot of times we'll hold these conversations, and some of the things that have been requested have been like classes on nutrition, mental health. Sometimes there's discussions coming up about having confusion with like the mandates, the public health mandates, which is where the COVID-19 information sessions came from, and bring to them in their language as well. So they were connected that way. And then afterwards, during other programs, if there's like additional questions, since I've had the leader present, I can connect with that leader and then go back and refer back with them again to provide the information to their questions if they didn't come to mind during the meeting. But it's all based on whatever they want. So we've even had programs where we just kind of all talk a little bit. We provide each other with support. We share resources amongst each other as well. So I learn from them as well, like what community resources are being beneficial to our participants. And then I can help other people that come up that let me know that they have needs as well. So it's been an amazing program in all those manners. And it's grown a lot during the pandemic now that we're on Zoom, because people can be preparing their meals, their family dinners, and still participate and learn and obtain support from others.
Thank you, because I think it's so important to be able to present these issues and hear what is affecting them in their own language. I think it makes people much more comfortable and willing to share in what I'm sure is an extremely safe space. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Beautiful. Commissioner Thorson.
I also really appreciated all of these programs, and just am really impressed with all that the library is doing to connect with women in these different communities. And it sounds like, Tiempo Parami has been really successful. So I was just curious if the library is considering expanding to additional languages, like maybe Vietnamese.
I would definitely support it if more staff would like to lead these programs as well. It's worked out really well, and we do try to gather information also via community conversations.
Commissioner, we can take that back to the Family Learning Center coordinator team and discuss it further and see if there's an opportunity there. Thank you for that.
Thank you. Commissioner Zisser.
Yeah, awesome programs to learn about. Amazing. Really appreciate hearing directly from a participant. That's a really compelling piece of the presentation. So thank you for joining us. Just a small question first. For the returners, women returners program, are you filling up the available spots, or were there additional spots that would have been available? I'm just curious about sort of demand there.
Yeah, so the registration that we set, I believe the limit is 25 per session. And so it's, not everyone can attend every session. So it kind of varies in terms of who shows up. But our numbers are, we're probably looking at closer to, 15, 20 people that are coming per session, if that makes sense.
So that leads me to my other question is, and maybe you covered this a little bit and I missed it, but how are people, and maybe the person who actually participated in this can speak to this, but how are people learning about these programs? How are they advertised?
So for the different programs, I mean, we have different, for example, Works has, a digital, newsletter. We have advertisements on the website. We'll use social media. So through our marketing department. We also try to promote the Women Returners group through our partner organizations. So like Work to Future, for example, so just different organizations that also where we have programs that we feel like there's a synergy between, sort of what we're offering and what they're offering. The intention is really to connect people to like a network of support, and we're not like we're not the experts on every single topic, right? So, it's great to be able to make those kinds of referrals, and that is something that like I would like to see in the future is, a more efficient way to track those referrals and sort of think about, what the best way is to continue to generate referrals across all of our different partnerships. So does that answer your question?
Yeah, I mean, in particular, the part of your response that really resonates and makes a lot of sense is working through those partner organizations. And I guess I just wonder if there's, untapped opportunities in other organizations to think of to sort of meet or fill some of those spots and get more demand for these programs. Because I think, as we heard from the participant, a lot of people don't even know that these classes, these programs exist, and people assume that the library is just a place they safely is. I mean, it's an understandable assumption that it's a place to go get books only. So I've certainly been thrilled to learn, I think at every one of these sessions I've attended, about yet more programs that are being offered and more opportunities for engagement in the community. So it's very exciting, but I just am curious about how we get the information out there. I think it's probably a big challenge, and I'd be interested in learning more about how the staff go about, doing that. I guess to my last question, sort of sort of dovetails with that. Sorry, my dog is whining here. Is just specifically to the speaker series, the women's speaker series for Women's History Month. As y'all were presenting, I was tooling around on the website, and other than scrolling through or searching in the events listings, I'm not seeing an advertisement for those speakers. And I guess I'm just wondering, if we can, and this goes for sort of other programs that I saw too that were really exciting. If there are sort of ways, if there's a practice of sort of having a Women's Month page. I see that there are other resources for Women's Month, but and directing people to these speaker series or other related programs, because I'm not just, and granted I'm only spending a few minutes here while I'm multitasking, but I'm not seeing an easy way to learn about that through the website. So just a question or a thought on that.
Yeah, 100%. Oh, go ahead. Sorry, Ophelia.
Hi, Kyle. Sorry.
Oh,
yeah,
sure.
I was going to say, I think that it is a challenge because, as you said, we have hundreds and hundreds of programs, and I've definitely seen that challenge as well. I think that's something that our fabulous, we like to say, award-winning marketing communications team has considered. And webpage real estate is challenging, to adapt to all of the amazing programs that we offer. There are some ways that we could promote, that we do promote real-time awareness of programs. We have one of the largest subscription networks, for instance, through library cards that people sign up to learn about programs, and then you get a direct email or text or whatever. But to that point, the hardest to reach residents are often the ones that we really want to know about these programs. So that probably isn't it might not be the best strategy. So I do think it's a fair point, and that we could, we'll think about it a bit more, and think about, since our FLC programs have grown, since we're reopening and we're hopefully going to have hybrid programs, in person and virtual, we really are rethinking how we do programming and outreach and awareness making. And so maybe that's something that our team can think about and bring back.
Thanks, Jill.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Commissioner Ramos.
Thank you, Chair Wendy. I just want to be brief and thank the staff for putting this information together. As everyone should remember, I did ask for this to come to us this month and last month, and so that was a quick turnaround, and it was not part of our work plan. So I appreciate that they went outside of the work plan to provide this really cool program. I only knew about it because I like to look at the library program, so I share it with all sorts of people. Primarily because I know that I'm of childbearing age and have a lot of friends who also have had to leave their jobs after some form of caregiving. So I just wanted to make sure that everyone else knew about these programs. So I really appreciate the staff putting together all of this and giving us this great overview. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Commissioner Kelly.
Yes, it's really an interesting project. Jill and Kyle and Aaron, I have an answer for you for outreach. I work with two other City of San Jose programs. One of them is Business Owner Space, and the other one is the Mayor's Small Business Advisory Task Force. In those groups, we share meetings with every ethnic chamber in the City of San Jose. So there's every single language that you would need to reach out to in their language from them, rather than coming from a third party. So if that's of interest to the library system, I'd be happy to share that information and talk with our various partners in BOS and Small Business Advisory Task Force to reach out to the library and provide that service to you.
Yeah, Commissioner Kelly, I would love to get that information from you to look into networking and potentially advertising programs that we have for sure. So can I just ask you again really quickly, you said the Mayor's Small Business Task Force, and what was the first thing you mentioned?
The clumsily titled and new to be renamed Business Owner Space, BOS.
Business Owners, gotcha.
Yeah, through the Office of Economic Development.
Perfect.
Yeah, Vic Farley. Yeah, so you have my contact information, do you not?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I'll look forward to hearing from you.
Thank you.
Can I through the chair, can I just ask Ken for a quick clarification on something he said?
Sure.
Ken, I think that's really helpful. When you talk about the different chambers, are you talking about like the Black Leadership Kitchen Cabinet and Raza Roundtable, or are you talking about something else?
No, I'm talking about the chambers of commerce.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. The ethnic chambers of commerce.
Yeah, those other groups that I just mentioned, as well as the Vietnamese American Roundtable, those are also, they meet monthly, and those are great places. A lot of city and county agencies show up. Maybe we already do. I'm not assuming anything, but they always share information on upcoming events of interest. And because of the huge focus that y'all have here on race and equity, there would just be so much interesting material to bring to them, to their meetings. So anyway, maybe some opportunities for collaboration, Ken and I and others to think about other outreach opportunities. I'd certainly be happy to be helpful in any way I can.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I'm sure Kyle's got it now. That is great. And I love all the connections. Any other commissioners?
Chair Wendy, can I just say that?
Yes, thank you, Commissioner Melillo.
I know Commissioner Allen said that she was the least technical, but I don't actually know how to raise my hand in Zoom. So I'm giving her a run for her money. I'm just wanted to say I'm really so glad to see that the Coding 5K continues to move on successfully and grow. I remember when it was its very first announcement. I think it was like a partnership with Alaska Airlines or something like that, and it's really just taken off since then. And I love the fact that there's the Coding for Girls. I don't know if spin-off or fork of the program, because I know that that's incredibly needed in coding and in the tech industry. And I love that it's incredibly successful and fully booked every year. And just want to really say it's really great work that you guys are doing here. And thank you very much for that.
Thank you so much, Commissioner. We appreciate that.
Absolutely. It's so exciting. Any other commissioners? All right, folks, thank you so much for not only keeping your chair on track, but telling us all the great stuff you're doing as well. Let's see, we have Councilmember Arenas' liaison announcements. Hi, Mariela.
Hi, nice to see you. Good evening, everybody. I'm Mariela with Councilwoman Arenas' office. And I just have a couple of announcements. So the first is that we hope that you will save the date for the next joint special meeting on child well-being between the city and the county. I do want to note that this meeting was originally scheduled for last week, but it was postponed to next week. So it's going to be on Friday, March 25th from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. And this meeting is going to be a follow-up from the previous joint meeting. So we hope that you can join us. And also wanted to let you know that we hope that you can join us for the Kids Care Fair at Welch Park, which is on Saturday, April 2nd from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. So this is going to be a free event. It's going to feature climbing walls, a vaccination clinic, food, music, kids' health resources. So we hope that you're able to attend and join in on the family-friendly fun. And thanks.
Thank you. As always, give the council member our best.
Of course.
Let's see, announcements from the chair. Two things. I was able to go to the rules committee and give our public comment for us. I will say, I talked to Vice Mayor Chappie Jones to say it wasn't the fastest rules committee ever, but it was fast. I'm like, wait, when is my comment? So I just went, which was fine. I think there were only 3 or 4 other comments of the whole time. So everything passed and went through and moved. And then I really want to thank Commissioner Thorson and Dawn for the incredible work around the news conference. I attended as well. I was looking at all the Facebook posts for the foundation of all of our great library foundation staff who are spectacular as well. And Commissioner Thorson talking about the importance of it. So I wanted to say, thank you for that. And I attended and held up my sign. So that was the commissioner's report or chair's report. And now for Jill.
Thank you. So I have a few items. At the beginning of this month, the San Jose Public Library's California Room kicked off its East Side Dreams Art Contest, which is celebrating the East Side San Jose's history and culture. 2 winners will win a gift card. There are 2 categories, $200 for the age category 14 and up and $100 for the age category of 13 and under. And they will also have their art featured at our upcoming East Side Dreams art exhibit at King Library. And the winner in the ages 14 and up category will also have their artwork made into a special limited edition library card. So we thank the San Jose Public Library Foundation for sponsoring the monetary prizes for the 2 winners. And then for more information, of course, about the art contest, visit sjpl.org/Eastside Contest. And then on March 2nd, Sjpl's early education team hosted the Read Across San Jose Day, which is a celebration of joy of reading and books and that have characters of all races, genders, and backgrounds. During this day-long event, library staff across all 25 branches read stories on our early education Facebook page. Viewers also got to hear stories from Mayor Sam Liccardo and council members Raul Perales, David Cohen, Maya Esparza, and Sylvia Reyes, along with her daughter. Next, in celebration of Nowruz, the Persian New Year, our West Valley Branch Library will have grab and go crafts and host the Beshken Dance Academy this Saturday, March 19th at 3 p.m. This group has been involved in many cultural and artistic events throughout the United States, and you can find more details about these events on our homepage at sjpl.org. And then earlier this year, the San Jose Public Library hosted its second annual laptop donation drive and ended up receiving 139 donated devices from our community. HP volunteers were able to successfully refresh 53 of the laptops that will now be used by local students and adults who participate in library programs that need this technology to thrive. So we're thankful to all of the participants in that program. And then lastly, yesterday, the City Council heard public comment and discussed Mayor Liccardo's March budget message for fiscal year 22-23. What's of note to the commission is that Councilmember Cohen authored a memorandum asking specifically that the library provide calculations for the budgetary impact of a full restoration of pre-pandemic service hours, as well as an increase to include Sunday hours. And I can't help smiling when I say that. The memorandum was advanced with the approved budget message, meaning that the library hours restoration will be considered formally through the public budget process. This, as you know, is the library department's highest priority going into the next budget year. So we are very appreciative of that action. And that concludes my announcements. I am happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Any questions from commissioners or comments? Congratulations, Jill. It's great, and staff and commissioners who have been pushing on our council members and mayor and vice mayor. Okay, we'll move on to comments and announcements. Folks, commissioners that are in friends groups that have comments or announcements and updates with any of the groups that they participated in through the public library. Okay, Commissioner Kelly.
Yeah, I already did that earlier, so I won't repeat myself.
All right, thank you, sir. Then any other meetings attended as commissioners, by commissioners as commissioners? Is your hand still up, Commissioner Kelly, or is that just left over from before? Okay, thank you. All right, moving on, the San Jose Public Library Foundation Board, Commissioner Thorson.
Hi, everyone. So as you know, we had a really great press conference on Thursday. Kudos to Dawn and the Library Foundation staff for putting it together. Vice Mayor Chappie Jones spoke in support of increasing library hours. His mother was a librarian, so he has a personal connection to the library. We also heard from Natalia Skovrybova, who graduated from the Career Online High School program and is planning to attend college, and from Sandra Patricia Madrigal Ruiz and her daughter, Sandra Gabriela Madrigal Ruiz. And she brought her daughter to the library while she was growing up and is now participated in the Family, Friends, and Caregiver Network. So these speeches were just really impactful and really spoke to how the library touches the community that it serves. And so the foundation will be sharing these testimonials for various platforms. And I have a few links for press that came out after the press conference, there was an article in Spotlight. So I'll send that link. And then also the story ran on KPIX. So that segment is on YouTube if you want to watch. And I also have a few other links. So as part of the advocacy work that the Foundation Advocacy Committee is putting together, there is a page on the Foundation website where you can contact your council member. So please contact your council member and the mayor, encourage friends and contacts to do so to support the library restoration of hours and Sunday hours and anything else you'd like to encourage them in terms of funding for the library. It's really easy to send an email and there are talking points on the page, so please share widely. Another way you can support that I had mentioned last time is the Balancing Act tool. And so that's something you can share as well for people to identify their priorities for the budget. So please use these resources as the city is going through this budget process, and the more participation we can get, the better chance we have of getting the funding restored. For those of you who have been on the commission for a long time, you'll remember that we were able to get the juvenile fines-free library materials through a few years ago, and it was really rewarding. So I hope that we'll all make an effort to spread the word in support of restoring library hours. And the next chance to speak before the council, there's going to be a series of community meetings in May. So the advocacy committee will be sharing information about those in advance. But in the meantime, just contact council members and spread the word. And then another day to highlight that's coming up is April 6th, which is National Library Giving Day. And so in honor of the Foundation's 35th anniversary, they have a $35,000 match going on for all donations made between now and midnight on April 6th. So you can get more info at the Foundation website, but if you know people who are looking for good causes to make donations to, spread the word that their gift will be matched. And that's everything I have. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And thank you for muting me. The other thing I just wanted to say, my congratulations to Jill was more about getting some council member Cohen to make it a priority and put it in a memo. And definitely does not mean the battle's over. It's actually still just begun. So thank you, Commissioner Thorson, for giving us all the avenues and ways to continue to advocate. I really loved in the news conference how Dawn was, she was saying the message over and over again, restore the $2 million. It's really just a rounding error considering the size and scope of the city budget. And the things that need to be is restoring the hours to pre-pandemic and Sunday hours. She just must have said it 6 or 7 times. And so the media picked up on it very easily. And so I was super impressed with that. And I think those are easy messages to carry forward on your social media platforms, if you like, and other places where you're speaking to our electeds. Okay, let's see. The next item, are there any questions? I'm so sorry. All right. You know how to get to our upcoming opportunities for participation. Are there items that commissioners would like Jill and staff to consider and the chair to consider for future meeting agendas? Commissioner Kelly.
Yes, I have a list of 4 or 5 others that I've already suggested, but I really would like to know now about the private security services that are being used at some of the branches. I'm a little bit confused about that. So if that could be on the agenda, that would be appreciated.
Commissioner Thorson.
So we heard tonight about all the great work of the marketing and communications department. And so I'd be interested in any upcoming meeting. Doesn't have to be at a certain time just to hear more about that department's work. And as Commissioner Melillo mentioned, they are award-winning. So just to learn more about the venues they promote, the programs, and all the work the great work that they're doing.
Thank you, Commissioner. Other commissioners? Commissioner Sisser.
Yeah, thank you. I guess I'd like to be able to discuss next time the possibility of forming an ad hoc committee on diversity and equity, given just how much information we've received on those topics and how hard it is to delve in deeply when we're covering a lot of other important topics during these commission sessions. But it's a welcome fire hose, and I just like somewhat a group to be able to wrap their hands around all that great information.
Thank you, sir. Anything else? All right, let's see. You are meeting again April 20th, 2022, 7 p.m. And we're adjourning tonight's commission meeting at 8:46. Thank you, everybody. Have a great, great month until we see you again. Bye-bye.
Bye, thank you.
Thanks, everyone.